Hello there, my name is Gerald Ray Cable. When we look at the effects of COVID-19 on Britain and its devastating effects on COVID-19 on Britain, and we see what's going on in Germany, we can but note that they are doing a lot better than Britain is. And perhaps the reason for this is that Germany is a federal republic, and perhaps if there was more local governance of healthcare and things like that in Britain, then we wouldn't have as many problems as we do with COVID-19. So this video is a little bit about changing Britain in a great and radical change, I think. Not revolution. We'll talk about revolution as well first. Revolution. Well, here's a definition of revolution in Wikipedia. And I think it's interesting, the last phrase. Typically due to perceived depression, political, social, economic, or political incompetence. Well, there's sure grounds for revolution in Britain in that case, but I don't think revolution is such a good idea. There's another definition of revolution which I think is perhaps much more true. Revolution, you start at point A, you do a complete circle of 360 degrees and return to point A. And the point in case of this is Tsar Nicholas in Russia, who was assassinated in 1917, and only to be replaced 100 years later by Tsar Vladimir II. Well, there you go. We can't deny there's not a north-south divide when the Trans-Pennine Express, there's a name, takes 3 hours 28 minutes to go from Hull to Liverpool, a grand total of 208 kilometres or 139 miles. It is pretty bad. And the chaos with Northern Rail when they just changed the timetable last year, which lost them the franchise, proves it even more.
Story of slow rot, decades of underinvestment, a brief moment of hope, a sprinkle of incompetence, and a massive fucking shit show. This is the story of Arriva Rail North.
People in London couldn't give a damn about the North, and I think this cartoon shows that really well. But I think there is a solution, and that is to move towards a federal kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And we'll talk about that a lot more now. First of all, we'll have a look at the way the German Federal Republic, the Bundesrepublik, is organised. I think that this will show the sort of thing that could be applicable to England, although I'm not saying that Britain should be a republic. I don't think it should. I think the constitutional monarchy works very well. I think the royal family are very popular with most British people, and I think they should carry on. I'm not saying Britain should become a republic, but I think the organisation of Lander could be applied to England, and instead of Lander we could call them something like sovereign regions. The Bundesrepublik Deutschland, or the Federal Republic of Germany, was known simply as West Germany from May 1949 when it was created until October of 1990, the time of German reunification, after which it became known purely as Germany. The current population of Germany today is 83 million. That's about 16 million more than the UK. It's divided into 16 Bundesländer, which are federal sovereign states, and the population varies in these states or Länder from 680,000 for Bremen to more than 18 million for Nordrhein-Westfalen. The Länder are responsible, amongst other things, for health, policing, regional infrastructure, education, and lots of other things as well. This is a map from 1930s of England when it was organised in counties, and it was very strictly organised in counties. This is the hodgepodge of local authorities in Britain today. I mean, this is crying out for reform, you've got to admit. Yeah, this map reminded me of a map of the Holy Roman Empire from medieval times. Yeah, well, there you go. Anyway, back to Britain. A population of 67 million, of which fully 84.27% live in England. That's really unbalanced. The union's totally unbalanced, and what we're going to do is make it less unbalanced. So if we divide England into 9 sovereign regions, then this puts a little bit of balance back into the system. If we look at Scotland today, the Scottish Parliament has 73 members of the Scottish Parliament, MSPs, which means that there's about one Scottish Member of Parliament for every 75,000 people living in the country. The population of Scotland is about 5.5 million. If we look at the English sovereign regions that I'm proposing to put in place, the populations will be between 5 and 6 million. So the size of the sovereign regional assemblies is going to be about the same size as the Scottish Parliament, between 70 and 80 members. The exception will be London, which is going to be about 7.5 million. But I think it's a good idea to follow what's already been done and make sure that the sovereign regional assemblies, each member of the sovereign regional assembly represents 75,000 people. Well, this is what the organigram of the Federal Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland would look like. Once again, as I indicated, each of the sovereign regional assemblies would be representing, each member of the regional assembly we're representing 75,000 people, which would give a varied size between about 70 and 80 for each of the regional assemblies, which means there's now equality between Scotland and the other regional assemblies. It makes the whole thing much more balanced. What's obvious is that you're going to have a federal parliament at Westminster, which will coordinate everything, and I think that, we're going to look at the spread of powers as in the Federal Republic of Germany, and also a Senate. Let's get rid of the House of Lords. We're going to change things. Let's get rid of the House of Lords. It's about time. A Senate, yes, and if you had like 3 senators or 4 senators from each of the sovereign regions and constituent countries of the United Kingdom, then what that means is you'd have a Senate of about 45, 50 people. I think that's about right size. And the federal parliament could be a lot smaller. I mean, if you represented each person in the country, 500,000 people for a single MP, it gives you a parliament of about 120 MPs. That doesn't need that Palace of Westminster. We're going to empty the House of Lords. That's got to go to the north. The only way you can prove you're serious to the north is by putting the Senate in the north. I love Harrogate, but then that's a personal choice. If we no longer need the House of Commons as the size that it is, and the House of Lords is going to move to the north, then we don't actually need the Palace of Westminster. The federal parliament can actually meet in Westminster Hall, which has been a place parliaments have met for a long time. Much longer than they've met in the neo-Gothic edifice created by Mr. Berry. It's a lovely old building, but it's not for our time. It's not. Britain's got to have another message. It's not for our time. It's got to become a museum to the British Empire and the people it oppressed. Well, that's about it. Those are my ideas on a federal kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. There's a lot to be fleshed out, like what areas the sovereign regions actually cover. Also, whether you use the first past the post system, like in Westminster and in the Scottish Parliament, or you could use proportional representation, or you could use double elections where you have a first round and then a eliminatory round, like you do in France. There's all those sorts of questions to be answered. But I think it is the right way to go forward. It will resolve the North-South divide. I'm absolutely certain of that. And the other thing that you have to start thinking about then is, if you're going to make all this great and radical change, I think Britain sorely needs a proper written constitution setting out the rights of British and Northern Irish citizens. Well, that's it. Bye for now.